think that you've also seen many operators, and I think that even yourself, you've gone through this transformation from non-tech to highly tech providers. So how would you describe what are the most common challenges in that transition?
Well, it's, getting adoption, and understanding exactly what the system you're putting in place does and doesn't do, and then figuring out how to change your processes to work within that system, and or change that system to that software to meet your needs. There's not a universal uh, software out there that meets every demand for every single company. So you have to figure out which one's going to work the best for you, and how do you make it work. Um, when we converted from paper logs, and uh, it was um, like about 2012, 2013. And it wasn't that, I mean, we supplied the tablets to the drivers because we have employee drivers. So we supplied
Mhm.
the tablets, we gave them the technology that they needed. And it hasn't been, it wasn't overly painful. Some of the issues that you run into, um, just from an NEMT perspective, on time performance is very key because you're taking people to medical appointments.
Yes.
Uh, when you're on paper logs, nobody reports trips 5 to 10 minutes late when you're writing down the time you arrived, right? You look, your driver arrives at 9:05 for a 9 o'clock appointment. They always arrived at 8:59.
Yeah.
Um, when you're on technology, it's what time you arrive, right? I mean, it's when you hit uh, arrived, it records that time. And if you try to hit arrive early and you're not at the location, well, then it records
It
that you're
takes
not at the
you.
location. So, so getting everybody to understand that where you may have been able to, have some shortcuts, you don't now. But then
Mm-hmm.
also taking advantage. Now, move forward to today, it is really gone from, you know, everything being analog to everything being digital, and how do you take advantage of all that data? I mean, that's, in fact, I've got a meeting this afternoon with some graduate students at the local university to put together, to start working on how to pull our data together, because we have our cameras and our dispatching software and our HR and our fuel cards and our fleet maintenance, and all of that data is great. But when I sit and extract that data from each of the data sets, and then I put it into Excel and I play with it, and then I get it and I find out exactly what I'm looking for. It's a month and a half later, and the problem that I was looking for is history, and I've got new problems I should be dealing, right? So now,
Yep.
it's how do you take advantage of that, and don't, not overwhelm yourself, but come to some great, like our new camera system, um, that we're looking at a camera system that has great analytics, to where you can start to say, show me where my driver's speed all have the highest occurrence of speeding. And now, I can start to look at that in a real world. It's this stretch of the highway, or it's right here. And you can now work with your dispatching software to pop up a little message when they're coming into that location. Hey, be sure to slow down. Where are my drivers having trouble coming to a full stop at a stop sign? And you can start popping reminders in. So now you're not in a mode of using data to see what happened. You're in a mode of using data to prevent things from happening. So, it's really staying. I mean, the challenge is using your data in a productive way right now, because the data's out there and it's so much. And as you start to whittle it down and play with it more, you can really become, you know, uh, you can start, we're a very, I don't know how things are up in Niagara Falls, but it's a low margin business that we operate in, right? So, you knock a percent here, a percent there, and it has a real big impact on the bottom line. And that's what we're looking to do right now with data. And that's what the TTA is very focused on right now, is how is, how can operators use their data to better their fleets and their operations.
Okay, so that brings to the next question, like to see whether technology is the only way forward, or are there still operators that are thriving, like doing things the more or less traditional way?
I
What
mean,
do you mean?
there are operators that are still, probably not completely analog, but yeah, there are still operators, but I just don't know that you can you limit how much you can do if you do that. I mean, Brandy could not be in Florida and think about running an operation in Niagara and in Florida if everything's analog. When if I go back to our company in the early 2012 2013, we were running probably about 80 vehicles. I knew I felt more uncomfortable about what was going on than I do now, where I'm operating 125 vehicles across 2 states, because I
Right.
can go on right now and see where everybody is. I mean, I could
Yep.
find out where every one of my vehicles is right now. The problem that Brandy was talking about of having to have a map and a piece of paper, that's not there anymore. I can just go online and see. I can see who's doing what. I can see what trips are on time. So, you could continue to operate without employing technology, but you're really going to limit yourself, and you're going to limit your ability to expand into new markets, because quite a few paying sources are just demanding it. Right? They
Mhm.
don't want to work with somebody that the only solution is to call me and book a trip. They don't want to work with somebody, that you have to fax me your trip request. People want to, that's, again, we go back to what we talked about. What did Uber and Lyft bring to the world? They brought that desire to have that. And for a long time, there were a lot of people who thought they were the only ones who had that. Well, that's not true. You can be a taxi company in Niagara Falls. You can be an NEMT company in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, or anywhere in the country, and have pretty much that same technology that Uber and Lyft have in terms of that
Yep.
ability to do that. And so if you want to be able to expand, if you want to go into other markets, if you want to not be just relying on, the people who know you got to employ technology these days.